Hi guys, welcome to
Blended Roots.
Hi guys, welcome back. Can you believe that we are already on our 6th episode? So all of you guys that have watched all of them so far, thank you. We absolutely appreciate you. Today's episode was actually a requested topic. So I had a friend from high school. She messaged me a few days ago and she was like, I just binge watched all of your all's episodes. And I was like, oh, you didn't have to do that, but that's awesome. That we're entertaining enough that somebody actually wants to binge watch us. But Amber knows her because she was a vet over in my hometown. And so I was like, oh, we should go to Whitney. She's a great vet. And so we started taking all of our animals to her clinic. So Amber got to know her through that. And so she was talking to me and I was like, oh my gosh, Amber, look at this. Like, just look at all these things that she's saying. I was like, oh, so sweet. But then she's had questions for us before. But she specifically asked if on this episode we could go a little more in depth about our roles within the house, as well as how we handle the budget for our household. But when we first talked about moving into the house, and I mean, even before then, we had kind of established like who was doing what.
Well, we had been doing dinners together. So it was like I would buy 1 week of groceries, Randy would buy the next, or he would just, transfer money, over to me via PayPal or whatever. Like, hey, what's the half of my groceries?
Yeah.
Because we just split everything down the middle. Which we had started doing dinners. If we ate out, we would just do one check and we would say, can you split it exactly down the middle?
Yeah, it got way too hard, especially when the other boys came along. It came way too hard to say, I'll get this one, this one, this one, and the appetizer.
Yeah.
It just became way too hard. So every time we would go out to eat, we would ask the waitress or the waiter if we could just take the total of the whole check and split it right down the middle. And you would think that would be a very easy concept, but for some it wasn't.
IHOP, you are not friendly with that at all. She was like, I don't know how I would do that. And I was like, it's called math. But math is hard for some people. So IHOP, maybe you should teach your servers how to split the bill.
After IHOP, though, we finally just started.
We asked
ahead of time. We were like, so we are going to have it set up to where we just split the bill 50-50. And from there, we determined if it was going to be an issue for that restaurant or not. Oh, my dear God.
Get him! Not let him in!
Oh.
No! I'll be very specific next time.
Yeah, you're going to have to be. Spell it out.
Yeah.
Spell it out.
It's fine. You have to with that one. You have to with both of our husbands.
They both are very literal.
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons that they hold the roles that they do within the household.
Yes.
You got to take their strengths and their weaknesses into consideration.
So whenever you buy a house with someone, even though we had already figured out how we did meals and vacations and that we just split everything down the middle, because we have an odd number of children. So it's just easier to split it down the middle, and that's how we see ourselves. We don't see ourselves as this is only Bryson's, mine are only mine. We don't see ourselves that way. But whenever you go to buy a house with somebody, you have to talk about the finances that you do not want to talk about.
You have to know every single financial detail of that other couple's life. And let me tell you, we kind of touched on this, I think, last week, but it is difficult when you have to bring up all of the mistakes that you have made financially to someone else that's not your spouse who supported you in those financial screw ups.
Or for me, it was, we're going to have a hard time getting a loan because I love Randy. Don't get me wrong. He's a great dad. However, when it comes to the kids' medical bills, sometimes they wouldn't go to him because that office didn't like send them to him, or whatever. There was a time in which I was getting my wages garnished for our kids' medical bills because they never let him know he owed them.
Yeah.
And even if they had, he might have forgotten, and it doesn't really matter. It's neither here nor there.
But it affected your credit
right. So my
tremendously.
Credit, yes. So my credit is pretty much trash after the divorce, and it kept getting hit because of things like that. So we knew at the end of the day that the house was going to have to go under Kim and Randy's credit, which was fine. But we had to have the conversation. Okay, how much debt do you have?
Mm-hmm.
What do you owe on this house? Me and Jeremy came into it from a different perspective. We had no debt as far as a house goes. Both of our houses that we currently own are owned free and clear. We just have to pay
really the only
taxes.
debt was the car.
A car, and then my student loan debt.
And your student loans, yeah.
Which my daughter knew how much student loan debt I had because she had been looking at colleges, and I said, you've gotten some really good offers from colleges as far as scholarships and things like that. Like, you need to take that into consideration. She said, I'll just get student loans. And I said, well, I'm going to show you what student loans look like. So,
and even her going into college, because when we bought this house, it was the month after she moved to college, I think.
Yeah. Well, we had started the process before.
Yeah. But the actual move in
yeah.
was just a month after she moved to college. And that was another consideration that we had to make. Like, because we had to figure out, was that going to be able to fit into our group budget? Because we knew that we were going to have to pay so much towards each semester for her.
So we pay the remainder amount of whatever her scholarships are amazing. I'm not going to lie. She goes to Bellarmine and we love them. Her scholarships are amazing. So we pay for part of her room and board and her meal package.
Meal plan, yeah.
Which every semester it's about $2,200 to $2,700. So we knew that we had to pay that. We knew how much of a mortgage payment that we could make, but we didn't want to extend ourselves on that mortgage payment and look for a house that we're going to be strapped.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm really glad now that stuff is falling apart, that we didn't.
That's the other thing too, and we've kind of talked a little bit about it, is that we can't look at it as, I understand it's your money and Jeremy's money, mine and Randy's money, but you can't be greedy with it. It essentially is the family's money, because when one person is in a bind or in a situation, the other people have to be willing to, because that we're a family. That's what we have to do. And you can't look at it as well, we were paying for that.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And even if we have had arguments or disagreements, we've never once threw it up in anybody's face about any of the financial things that have gone wrong, because we understood that was the financial agreement going into this situation.
Yeah. But being honest about the amount of debt that we were coming into it with, it was a hard topic. And I love Kim to death. But it was hard for you. It just was, because Randy is one of those husbands who doesn't ever want to tell her no. And I don't care to tell my husband no. My husband didn't know what kind of money we had. And Kim in turn didn't know what money they had. She just knew that if she asked for it, she would get it. And I was the same way with Jeremy, a little bit more, not as relaxed. But
you were more like, we have the money for it, not we have a credit card for it.
Right. Or I'd be like, well, you can wait until, we can fully, do that. I've made one financial mistake that I completely regret. And that is buying him a new car. But that's what I wanted to do for his Christmas/birthday present one year. And I had a car delivered to him. He had a thing, but that's the one financial regret that I have, because what I had always done and what me and Randy had done prior was we would save up the cash and we would go buy whatever car we had cash for.
Which is what we did this last time.
Yes. So now we're back to that
from our mistakes.
So yes. So This winter, we had to go and reevaluate the car situation. Randy's van, he'd had it since Bryson was born, literally got delivered at the hospital because his stroller wouldn't fit in the back of the car he had just bought. And
Another
you know,
stupid mistake, but whatever.
It happens. It's whatever.
Yep.
But we had to reevaluate the car situation, and Kim and Randy were like, we have this much money. This is what we're spending. That is it. And I was like, okay. And that's what they went and did. Like, could I have went with them? Yes. Did I? No. Because, like, I knew that Kim was self-aware enough that, like, we couldn't do that to ourselves again.
But it was something that we still had, even though it was my car.
Right.
We had a family discussion about, like, what we were going to spend on the car, the money that we have in our savings account to spend on the car.
Yeah.
Just being very open about it. And when we first started talking about moving in here, we were still very literal about splitting everything 50-50. So for the first few months, we had tried to...
We opened a bank account. We have a bank account together.
Yeah, we did. That was fun.
Yeah.
Going to the bank to open a bank account
and they
together.
were like, oh, you have an account here. And I was like, it's closed. And it was with him. So essentially they were like, they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Kim's actually not on the account.
And Jeremy's not.
And Jeremy's not. It's just me and Randy. So we're kind of the financial people. And Randy does all the bills. Now the mortgage is split. Yeah. Right down the middle.
But when we first moved in, we were going to split everything 50-50.
Right.
And we tried that for a little while. Like, okay, here's how much I spent on
money.
Groceries. And it was
and even though we were putting it in the family account, it just became, and finally me and Randy were just like, I was like, okay, how much are all the bills together? And he told me, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to start buying all the groceries. Now with inflation, we have had to readjust that a little bit because at the time, if there was like our power bill or whatever, it can be really high. It's a 5,000 square foot house. Power is expensive, that kind of thing. Randy would sometimes just ask me, hey, do you care to help out?
Yeah, like, can you pitch in some money towards this?
And generally I would, until recently with inflation and the price of groceries. I broke down how much I was spending in groceries and how much he was spending in bills. And I said, please don't ask me for any money for the electric bill.
Yeah.
Because we're off.
But to clarify,
that doesn't matter to us.
To clarify though, it's not just groceries. You also cover all of the household items like toilet paper, which is a lot for 10 people, and all the cleaning supplies and all the shampoo and soap and
if it goes in his house, chances are I've bought it, and I do pay the internet bill.
And the internet bill, yeah.
But I mean, and for the longest time, the 50-50 thing, it just kind of financial situation changed last September.
Drastically.
Me, Randy, and Kim had jobs that we made a ridiculous amount of money, and we no longer hold those jobs. So we lost about $150,000 a year in income. Yeah. So that happened after we bought this house.
We were a few days prior to our 1-year anniversary in this house when it happened.
And our world imploded.
And I'm telling you, if you are not a believer, that's okay. We don't judge. However, we are. And it was absolutely a fish and loaves situation because somehow
Christmas was coming up. It was September.
Yeah.
And
Christmas was coming. Kaylin's school payment was coming. Like, we had
a trip to Waco that was scheduled, and we were like, it was like the next week.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm really glad that we had money saved up for Waco. Because,
Mom and Dad ended up covering almost everything for us.
But they probably would have done that anyway.
I'm sure they would have, but
because you just,
it's who they are.
If you meet our parents, you would understand. If you know them, you know that that's how they are.
Like, other than us just being home all the time, I really don't know that our kids would have seen any kind of difference because somehow we met we made the ends meet
Yeah.
and more.
And they got just as much Christmas as, now we are weird about Christmas, which is something that I had started with my kids. Santa presents. We let our kids know that Santa has a budget that we give him. And then we let Santa use that budget. Now within that budget, we buy 3 gifts because they are no more special than baby Jesus.
And that's another thing that we started doing a couple years before we moved into this house is things that, like for Christmas, we started putting our budget together and
Yes.
buying from the parents instead of Amber and Jeremy buying gifts, me and Randy buying gifts. We started getting together and buying the kids gifts together from all of the parents. So it's very much an open conversation, and you have to be open about it. You can't, just one or two of the parents talk about it.
Yeah.
It's got to be even though Jeremy doesn't really care about the money situation. He was like, "Oh, money."
Yeah.
It's not really his thing. He still is aware that we spend money.
He just assumes that he's going to swipe his card and it's okay. But Jeremy does have a spending problem with like online games and things.
We talked about when
yes,
we went to Mexico.
Yes. So that is something that we control even with our other children, and we use the green light system with them. Their allowance goes on that. Kim and Randy personally use that for them as well. I don't have a green light card.
Not sponsored, but we would love it.
My situation has changed to where I work within the home now. Not like a
corporate
work
job.
from home job. I don't have a work from home job. It's just I work within the home. And I take care of our children. I get them from school. They are homeschooled, but they do go to our mother's house. Kim will drop them off in the mornings on her way to work, and then I will go and pick them up. Now, this year, it's going to change a little bit because our son, he's old enough to drive. So, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things that I do here. So, for me, I am the one that will discipline the kids throughout the day. I make sure that all their meals, like I go through once a week. We do a menu. Lunch stuff is kind of just like whatever I choose. Like I know what the kids eat, that kind of thing. If they have a special request, they can put it on a list. We have an app. Well, actually, it's just the notes on your iPhone. And people will go in with what they need, whether it's toothpaste or deodorant or, our son wants mini corn dogs instead of big corn dogs. Like he just puts all of that on the list. So I go through and do that, and I do the meals, and then I do the shopping for all of that. I do delivery. The reason that I do a lot of online shopping with delivery is because I spend less that way.
It's also a lot easier when you have the 3 littles running around the house
And I have the baby.
you babysit during the day. It would just be ridiculous for you to even do a pickup order. It would be a lot to have to get all of them gathered up. Yeah. But you also are the sick mom.
Yes.
So my husband is 100% germaphobe, and he is not afraid to admit it. I think Amber mentioned one time that like if a kid has to go to the doctor, even if it's like urgent care or whatever, it's usually me and her going because he
is very uncomfortable.
He can't. So most of the time, whether it's day, night, 2:00 in the morning, whenever
they knock on my door, they know
to go to Amber's door. So she usually will be the person that also handles any of the sick children. 1, for Randy's peace of mind, but 2, she's also very experienced. So it just kind of makes sense for her to be the one to handle that situation. Yeah. Not saying that like we wouldn't handle it,
but that's just how we
primarily are. It's just that's how we had agreed to do the situation.
We used to quarantine at different houses. So if one kid was sick,
they
would come to my house, and then the well kids would go across the street to Kim and Randy's. Yeah. So we've always done this.
Randy even asked what room in our house was going to be the quarantine room when we got the new house.
And we were like, the basement, because it's the same size as the upstairs.
Yes.
And it has a kitchen and a bathroom and laundry room and all of that. I think we all just kind of...
Do we have a designated... I don't think we have a designated peacemaker. No. I think we all step in when we need to, when there's peace to be made.
Yeah. But we've just always, that's just how it's been. And I kind of give them a rundown throughout the day. Like if, one of the kids has like done something, but we've already had discussions about, that's just how it's been. And I kind of give them a rundown throughout the day. Like if, one of the kids has like done something, but we've already had discussions about, how are we going to, like, we've recently had a discussion. I don't know if any other parent has an issue with this, but our kids have a VR. They also have computer systems. They have their game systems. And VR and game time has become an increasing issue with how our children act.
Was a discussion that we had as parents, and we all agreed to the solution. And we do that with a lot of big decisions. Like if it's a little thing and Amber's like, hey, this is what Bryson did today, so he's grounded until Tuesday. Like, we're going to back her up on that. We're not going to.
But we've already had a prior discussion as to this is worth grounding them for. This is worth,
like this we're going to have a family discussion about.
Right. And we've had to do that. We've had to bring all 4 of the boys in a couple of instances together and been like, here it is. Take it or leave it. And our son, who's 16, is like, well, that's not fair to me. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if you think it's fair. We don't care.
If you were potentially part of the problem, you're going to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
But the biggest part of that being, we have to back each other up.
Yeah.
Like if one of us has some sort of discipline that we have initiated with the kids, we let the other parents know, and
we even let our mother know and my sister, because they will go over there from time to time. We let them know. That punishment still carries over to their house as well.
Yeah.
Just like with my our sister's stepson, he's not allowed to have VR except on the weekends. He does if he comes over here, he doesn't get it here.
Rule applies. And the only exception to that is when they're in school, like if they have to use their iPads for YouTube for a lesson or something like that. But mom knows that that's the exception. And once they're done with school, iPads go away and they don't get to use them anymore. Yeah. But you have to have each other's back. And if there's ever a situation where maybe you think that, and I don't think that we've ever had this, but like, let's say you think that the punishment is too harsh for the crime, right? I highly suggest not having that discussion in front of the child. You need to have that discussion with the parent unit.
We have had that because Randy
we have.
Yeah, because Randy was like, he's like, I don't agree. And I'm like,
so let's talk it out.
Right.
But not in front of the kids. Right. Because that point, that shows that there's a disconnect in our unit.
Yeah.
And listen, our kids are crafty and they are smart and they are going to see it and they are going to take advantage of it.
They get it from me. If there's a gray area, they're going to find it.
Then, as far as roles go, we've established on several occasions that you are also the cook of the house.
Yes.
Very, very rarely does anyone else in this house cook.
Kim started breakfast this morning. And by started, I mean she got some stuff out.
I literally laid it out. She got up and was walking through the kitchen. I'm like, nope, I'm out. Yep. Like, if you need me, holler.
Yep.
But then, we've established that I'm also, so I do the house cleaning organization things in the house.
That doesn't mean that I don't like pick up during the day because
and the kids absolutely help. They have chores. Because they live in this house, they're going to contribute to this house. And I have been very open about the fact that picking up after 10 people for me can be a little overwhelming. And I have had to ask for help before. On a lot of occasions, I need help picking up so I can do the actual cleaning part of, cleaning the house.
Well, like yesterday, it was the 4th of July. We
hosted for the first time.
We did. We hosted for the first time. But I went in the kitchen the day before and started because we actually had 2 celebrations.
Yeah.
One at my mom and sister's house, and then we had one here. So I cook for an army anyway, but not only am I cooking for those celebrations, I'm still cooking us dinner. and that kind of
and
thing.
any other meals throughout the day, depending on who's here.
Yeah. So, that's my job. My job is to make sure that everybody's, clean and fed, and Kim's is to clean up. When you have as many kids and animals as we do, you kind of need someone at home. That's where we're
especially
at
right now, being out of school.
Yeah.
It's been much more beneficial having you home, even though your last job was absolutely perfect for you.
Yes.
The company may not have been, but
Right.
the job was.
Yes.
It still has been super beneficial to have our house manager in the home again.
Yeah. So I'm the house manager. By the way, it was just kind of a self-appointed title, and then everybody's like, "No, that works."
Yep. You got to speak with the house manager.
Yeah. So Kim definitely, she does not want to do what I do, and I do not want to do, what she does. So, we worked it out between ourselves. Randy is the one that will fix vehicles, yard work. Our son helps with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy,
he cleans up the kitchen after dinner now.
he does. He cleans up the dinner after the kitchen after dinner, puts all the leftovers away, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then I can go in there after the kitchen is picked up from dinner, and then I make everybody's snacks and lunches for the next day. That includes Kim and Randy's, Jeremy's, because he has recently accepted a new position, and it seems pretty perfect.
Excited for him.
Yes. So, and that's going to help alleviate some of me not working outside of the home as well.
And then he is also Randy's little sidekick. If he's working on a project, Jeremy likes to hand him tools.
Like the other day when there was water pouring out of our basement ceiling and we didn't know why, and he had to go with towels and sop up all the... Turned out it was not anything that was major, except the water was major. But
Jeremy's just not very much of a handy person. He does like to learn how to do things. But a lot of the times he'll go to help Randy out, and he will be like, I'll go grab towels. I'm going to grab whatever you need.
I'll take the trash out.
I'll find the flashlight.
Yeah. He's just not good at any of that kind of stuff, hands-on, fixing things. He can't. He's not. He's slowly learning where we keep things, and if
Mind
he does,
you, we've lived in this house for 2 years.
Yeah. But anybody who's ever met Jeremy, he is not. He's not stupid by any means. He's
he's an intellectual man,
but common sense he has zero.
No.
Zero.
Come on. So you got to go into the grape thing. Come on.
Okay, I'll tell the grape story.
Okay.
So we were at my mom's house, and I can't remember if it was Grayson or Logan. They wanted grapes. And he's like, "Oh, I'll get them." Well, as he's getting up, I said, "Hey, they're in the fridge." And my mom says, "Well, of course he knows that they're in the fridge, Amber." She looked over, and he was in her pantry. And she went, "Maybe he didn't." And he will tell you that his parents kind of let him raise himself.
Yeah. I mean, he admits that.
Yes. So they didn't teach him how to tie garbage bags, by the way. When we had a dumpster at our old house.
But everything had to be in a bag because they manually unloaded the dumpster.
Right.
Jeremy was taking it down there in bags. That wasn't the issue.
And granted, Grayson was still in diapers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that wasn't the issue. Jeremy was throwing them in the dumpster without tying them. He thought you just cinched them down and that's all you had to do.
Because that's what his parents taught him to do.
Him and Randy had to climb in that dumpster and clean it out.
He learned his lesson, and he now ties.
Oh yeah, he ties.
Bags. That was a lesson that he was like, "That was disgusting," and I was like, "And you did it." Even if you read,
you better be glad that your brother Hubs was willing to help you out in that situation.
Yeah, that is what they call each other. Is we refer to ourselves as sister wives. They refer to their selves as brother husbands. So
shortened to brother Hubs.
Yep.
Bro Hubs, even shorter.
Yeah. So really, we have all established our own roles. We've established our budget. You have to be willing to have the hard conversations about money and about who wants to do what.
Communication above all things. Because we talked about, even though we are not a romantic relationship. We are still a relationship, and we have to be just as open as you are with your spouse. You have to have those conversations. You have to say, hey, this situation's not working. What can we do to fix this?
Yeah. This wouldn't work if Kim and Randy can only punish Bryson, or if I can only punish Grayson and Logan and Rhiannon and Caitlin. Like, this would not work.
Or if we didn't agree on how we were going to discipline the kids. Or
because Jeremy fought, he had a hard time. He was like, those aren't my kids. And I was like, so this is never going to work.
He had a terrible time getting on to Bryson.
Right now, so it is your responsibility.
Take care of it. He's gotten a little better about it.
But it was never hard for us because I watched Bryson whenever he was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and me and Randy had very similar parenting views. Obviously, we had 2 children together prior to Kim and Randy. Right now, so it is your responsibility.
Take care of it. He's gotten a little better about it.
But it was never hard for us because I watched Bryson whenever he was a baby.
So once Grayson and Logan came into the picture, we had already established a good enough relationship that we knew that we were kind of on the same page with that.
And it was like, no, don't call and ask me. You know how we punish our children. You know how that works. Yeah. Don't ask me. Just do it because you are their parent.
Yeah.
So it's not going to work if you're like, oh, that's my child and that's his child and that's their child. And, I don't think that isn't going to work for a cohesive home. Yeah. We just kind of all fell into our roles, but, it's been discussed. We know what we want to do. And, you have to be willing to have the hard conversations about money and about like who wants to do what.
Communication above all things.
We're just open and honest and consistent. Like, you have to be consistent. It's also not going to work if like we would change the rules back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, or the rules different for one child than it is the other.
Yeah.
Now, we do realize that all of our children need punishments differently. So we have to have the conversation of what is the appropriate punishment for each child, because it is not the same punishment for each child.
But across the board, they're treated the same.
Yes. So, but if you can't have those conversations with somebody, co-parenting and a co-living situation, I just don't see how it would ever work.
It's not going to work. On the same page, you have to have communication. You have to be open. And if you can't be those things, there's going to be struggles in the relationship. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Whether there's kids involved or not, honestly.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter whether it's just a behavior issue or if it is a major medical, your child is going to be under the knife for 18 hours. We always talk about it together first because it's not 2 parents, it's not just 1 parent, it's 4.
And we're in this together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a little bit more about our story and how we handle the budget and the roles and functioning as a unit of 4 parents. So if you have any more questions about it, please let us know. And if you have any topics that you want us to talk about, like, reach out and tell us about it. Like, ask questions. We would
love to know, like, if you have a relationship that is different and like it works for you all. Like, it's not that we don't want to hear about it. We want to hear about
absolutely.
it. We just know what works for us. But you do you. But if we can help anybody, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Again, the goal is because we would live, if we would die for our children, we're definitely going to live for them. So, yeah, that's our goal.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, until next week, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Come back next week and hang out with the moms
on another episode of
Blended Roots.